I say when I leave office, I expect to be awarded.
Well, that's good. You're gonna get to the point where.
Yeah, I can hang it on the flag.
Some of the guys didn't turn their stuff in.
It's faster than horse. It's a lot more comfortable than ours.
I do like this gavel. Welcome to the March 27th meeting of the Integrated Regional Water Management Program, Regional Water Management Group. That's a mouthful. How about roll call?
Sherry Frost,
Here.
Paul Rowan.
Here.
Terry Swafford.
Here.
Russell Reed.
Here.
Bill Linder.
Here.
Jim Levin.
Here.
Trina. Here. Tom Yeager-Hopper. Jeff Meeting.
Here.
Joe Hoffman.
Here.
Carol Thornton. Quentin Youngblood.
He's had a family emergency. Right back there.
Okay, thank you. Any additions or deletions to the agenda anymore? Hearing none. This is the time for public comment. We'd appreciate any comments on any item not on the agenda. If you have comments on agenda items, please hold them till that item is called. Any public? You guys don't look real funny. Okay, announcements. The only announcement I really have, and because we're a watershed focused group, I think it's important to know that yesterday at noon was the cutoff for submitted comments on the relicensing of Lake Almanor, PG&E East Berkeley licensing, and many people have commented, and Plumas County sent in a pretty succinct list of comments. And if any of you would like to have a copy of the cover letter that went in with all of the backup material, let Randy know and he'll print one for you.
Okay, here's the cover letter, double-sided, and these are the attachments.
That's staggered with volume.
That's it, man, very Any other announcements or reports?
I just wanted to bring this handout to your attention. It's a PowerPoint that by DWR, the Roundtable of Regions, and it's about the upcoming Proposition 84 Round 3 funding and the Proposition 1 grant funding. This was provided by the Sierra Water Work Group. And mostly I just wanted to bring to attention that on slide 11, it goes over the IRWM portion of the Prop 1, which is about $510 million. And then it talks about the Prop 84 Round 3, which will be released, and the solicitation will be released this summer. And the plan won't be in a place where we're ready to apply for those funds. But the Prop 1, on the back page, you'll see slide 27, they're planning on doing their grant solicitations for the Irwin funds in mid-2016. So maybe next year, which project will be finished in June, so we should be
Positioned for that.
But it's interesting, has the information in there about the grant.
Great, thank you.
Okay. When they make those allocations out of curiosity, are they like totally project driven or everybody gets a piece of the pie? You know, traditionally, is that how the grant has worked?
I don't believe that necessarily every region gets a piece of the pie. They divvy it up by
All by grant.
used to be hydrologic regions, and now it's, I don't know what they call them, but there's the Mountain Counties overlay, which we fall into at this time.
Okay, action agenda, item 1, stakeholder outreach updates. A is draft informational pamphlets, and I think everybody has that.
Actually, before we get to the item 1, I can give a brief update on where we are as far as the project,
Okay,
overall project. As far as schedule, this is our 4th management review out of 6 from the first project year. The work groups have each held 2 of their 4 annual meetings. The memorandum of understanding, we still only have 5 signed MOUs. In April, staff is planning to send out a letter to each of the signatories on the 2009 MOU to try to solicit some interest again. And then we have drafted the MOUs for the forests, and we'll be sending that to them for consideration in April also. the budget and task update, we submitted 6 invoices to EWR for about 17% of the overall project budget. We are now working in all of the tasks, tasks 1 through 7. We'll be doing, the next item will be an update on the stakeholder outreach efforts, so I won't go into that too much. The baseline technical study, will also be doing a presentation on that today, and then and then task 3, we are moving forward with developing the online mapping system. And with the GIS layer, that's not ready quite yet, but we have developed the map-based catalog of studies, and I'll talk about that at the baseline technical study item also. The climate change, they are making, the consultants working on a climate change study are making progress. They've completed the initial vulnerability checklist as part of the required study, and have identified information needs that will need to be addressed by regional folks who have knowledge of the various issues within the region. And we have an initial list tagging who you can contact for that, and I'll be providing that to you all as an email. And then once we identify anyone else that may be able to have input, then we can send that out to those various people. Project development process. The draft solicitation package has been presented to the work groups and tribes for input, and then we'll be reviewing that a little bit later as one of the items. And we have started on a number of chapters and continue to work on those. We're drafting the regional description and the land use planning chapters. And hope to have those to you at the next meeting. And then the grant administration, we have submitted 6 invoices and reports. And then on the back page of that, there is an update on the breakdown of the invoicing and budget.
It looks like we're really right on target, budget-wise, and actually schedule-wise.
Yeah.
I assume that we're at 97% because we bought all the equipment we're gonna need, probably.
That would be the GIS computer that's being used in this effort.
Right. Okay, stakeholder outreach update.
This item consists of an update on the tribal engagement efforts as well as the work group progress. The second tribal outreach meeting was held on March 20th in Greenville. And they did review and discuss the draft goals and objectives, and we'll go over those in that item. They also have developed the tribal engagement chart, which has been approved by the tribe, and that's included in your packet. It outlines the process for involvement as well as direct tribal consultation. And do you have anything to add to the update?
Thank you. Pick up my glasses. So one of the things that the tribes requested is, as they're looking at contacting different members of this team and in informal consultation with the county and other people, they wanted to know who the right people to contact are for those outreach efforts that they may or may not want. And so there's just a request for specific contacts. And then there's just a lot of multiplicity, a lot of things happening, and just that desire to maintain communications. And then I left my notes, so I can't remember what else it was. But these are my notes from the actual meeting. So that's.
Do you think you'll get what's the best word to word this? A pretty consistent and message from the tribes? Do you think that it's going to be possible to put 3 or 4 items of their concerns together, or 10, or whatever the case is? Do you feel pretty confident in those meetings that in other words, we could get some real good feedback, and it would be nice to have a consensus of feedback instead of having, like 5 or 4,000 different concerns.
Right. Right now, it's just participating in this outreach process. It's kind of engaging tribal people because they really are trying to wrap their heads around what's this whole process. And I think that they're starting to finally get a feel for that. I did encourage them at the last meeting to start thinking about any projects that their individual entities may have and start developing them and holding together. And then as they do that, there's potential that they might be able to strategize with other work groups or other people. And so I did encourage them to start thinking about that. And where they're at exactly, I don't know. And I know they do have some primary concerns about fisheries. But all that.
Yeah, and we can direct them to those work groups, because that's where they should start. Those work groups.
And at each meeting, we are encouraging them to participate in the work group meetings. And so we do have participation in at least one work group, if not a couple. But as everybody, their time and their workloads, they're limited.
Sure.
It'd be a good time for me to mention that after this meeting, when I'm gonna film a short video clip that we're gonna put up on the website, that's kind of gonna be the who, what, where, how, IRWM, how it works, how the subgroups work, and once it's posted, then as new people come on board, they'll have that resource to look at it to kind of all get the same information.
Right.
What we're hoping will come out of this process.
That would be largely beneficial, and one of the things that I'm starting to discover with the tribal outreach is that we have a core group of people, the Greenville Rancheria, the Susanville Rancheria, as well as a couple of other people that are, pretty engaged. But that's causing a ripple effect, and so now some of the tribes from the lower bed of the river are kind of like, wait, why are we being left out? Which is great. So
that would be great.
So we will be probably having more people come in, so something like that would be hugely beneficial.
Super.
And in all probability, that will precipitate subsequent responding to the same kinds of questions that evolve.
Well, and be sure that everybody gets the same answer all the way through the process. So there's some consistency.
You guys have agents?
It'll
Are you movie stars now? Do we have to?
It'll make Uma turn around, I
Are you
bet.
business managers?
Sorry,
Talk to you guys, are you movie stars, you have to get an agent, a business manager?
We probably do. I hadn't thought of that. No, we'll have to.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. But first we want,
Roll that in the grant.
makeup artists. That's the first.
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
You guys are saying the Donnas, you're gonna have sandwiches,
Yeah.
serve apples, yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Trina, my understanding is that through the participation of the work groups, that it will go to a tribal advisory committee, and then the feedback will come back through you.
It is. At this point, it'll come through Sherry or me, and Sherry can't always be at meetings, and so when she's not here, it'll come through me. But, that's the biggest concern is some tribes may not just want to go through me, they may want to reach out to other people. And that's fine, that's encouraged.
Sure.
As far as work groups, all the work groups have held their second meetings. The second meetings were focused on identification of issues and potential projects, and then a review of the goals and objectives, and then review and feedback of the project solicitation form, and then narrowing the selection of the priority resource management strategies. And I'll note that in your packet, I made an error. The floodplains, meadows, and water bodies, they met on April 24th, not the uplands forest workers. So on your screen, it's correct here on the PowerPoint. And then I'm gonna, Frank, could you start off with giving some updates?
Oh, sure. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Frank Moskos. I'm the chairman for the Municipal Services Work Group. We did have our meeting on February 19th. We had 7 representatives from around Plymouth County, from Clio all the way down and up into Union Valley. And of course, Randy and Uma were there also. Some of the most evident thing that we discussed was the infrastructure need for the aging infrastructure of Plymouth County. Everybody needs help somewhere, somehow. Whether they've had projects, they want to do projects, they just don't have the money to do it. Well, they're finally understanding this might be an opportunity for them to get these projects done. So we came up with 15 issues between water, wastewater, and water reuse. And believe it or not, we came up with 32 projects just from 7 of us that were there. So as we start reaching out more, because I know 4 or 5 other agencies that need work, they just haven't cooperated with us yet. So we're going to have a long list of projects that will be available for this funding, hopefully. We had cut our resource management strategies down to 6. Urban water use efficiency, water transfers, municipal recycled water, drinking water treatment distribution, economic incentives, and then wastewater / NPDES needs. And what the NPDES is, that's the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. That is what, that's how they're regulated. That's their discharge permit, if you will. Anybody who puts any kind of treated water to a receiving water, whether it be a stream or a lake or anything like that, they have to have this NPDES permit. Very difficult to comply with sometimes, especially now that all the regulations are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So that's where we are now, and I do anyway, I belong to the Plumas County Special Districts Association, and we meet quarterly, and we have set aside an agenda topic to discuss this process at each of those meetings. So that's what we're standing now.
With that volume of projects, et cetera, how much consolidation, like, 15 projects and virtually the same thing, if you just, let's say a bigger area needed?
Well, I think you're going to find that if we can get people to talk to each other, you might be able to get 2 or 3 different agencies to have their sewer system redone.
Yeah.
And of course, by volume, you get a better price.
Sure.
And I'm hoping we can get that kind of cooperation with that people, because recycled water is another one. We have all kinds of great golf courses around. I know Plumas, Eureka, where I work, we're having a feasibility study done right now, so that we will not be discharging any of our wastewater. We'll be reclaiming it all on the golf course. And the only time we'd have to use our leach fields is during the wintertime. But if I can get, big grand project, give me a couple $1 million gallons worth of storage, and I wouldn't have to discharge any of my wastewater at all. It would all be reused on the golf course. So grand projects, small projects, I just hope that everybody can come together and package them together.
This ought to be fun as us to make decisions, like, okay, here's the pie, okay, I mean, who would I not, that sounds like such a darn good project, why would I not vote for that? But then you have a project over here, so in other words, how are we going to quantify a good decision process to put more points or less points on, is it going to be units of people served? Is it going to be, how can I say that the resources available for that particular area? For example, if it's, should the homeowners be paying for a part of this? It's just not blank, everybody's not all created equal in a situation like this. So I think that's going to be a challenge on municipalities, because why, should we be subsidizing the areas that don't have any money at all?
That's what number 7 on your agenda.
Right.
So we can stay here till midnight.
Yeah, because that's literally what we've been working on, is how to come up with a prioritization.
Just saying.
You're getting us ready for item 7.
Randy?
Well, but I think that I think the point of the meeting is not to go over this agenda. It is, I think that has to be discussed in the process of all the work groups. I'd say that to all the work groups. I think that the work groups should understand that the decision is going to have to be made. So how can you help us make that decision? What's going to be the unit of value that we can make?
Well, I think once we come up with the selection and prioritization criteria, that's what will be going to the work groups. Randy, you have something?
I think from the numbers Frank gave you is pretty telling number. What we have is a rural area with either aging or infrastructure that wasn't put in very well. It was a very enlightening meeting on my part. I went, wow, these are the communities that support most of the population in the region. And I thought they did a really good job of identifying issues, and then sort of let them go on the projects, guys. Come on, what are the issues with your systems? There were a lot of small little things that were identified, but what really was telling that capacity is very limited, and we have an issue there with our communities, and it's something we need to pay attention to.
Well, and as Frank pointed out, I know almost every sewer district that I've been involved in has stormwater intrusion problems because their sewer pipes are leaking.
And when you get,
That would be the economy of scale if you could have 2 or 3 districts that put in a project together and really put out a giant contract.
well, when you get out to that communication gap, when you hear somebody tell you that you've got 55 districts, you need 20, suddenly you kind of get back into that packaging, even the districts.
Well, that's true.
It won't work for this, obviously.
John, can you give an update for the police force?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? I think I know most of you. I'm John Sheehan, and I'm assistant on the Forest and Uplands group. And just quickly, what we've been doing in our first 2 meetings, we went over the draft goals and objectives and didn't have any great insights on that. We did talk about, though, some strategies, both the resource management strategies and the initial projects for fire and uplands. First, the resource management strategies. Now, these follow I think everybody started with the same place on these strategies, each of the work groups. So what we've been narrowing it to are the following strategies: forest management, watershed management, sediment management, economic incentives, ecosystem restoration, and outreach and engagement. And again, this is just from the one work group, what we thought we wanted to focus on in terms of those strategies. Now, none of these is in any way, shape, or form, except for maybe outreach and engagement, discrete by itself. They overlap among themselves, and they also overlap between the different work groups. So that's something you more than us will have to sort out. How do you deal with conflicts or overlaps, and who gets empowered to really be the lead in certain areas or not? The so-called catastrophic fire buffer strategies get to kind of a geographic look at things instead of just a theme. And they are a snow zone with tails on it. And I think by that, that it has some fuzziness around the edges, is all I can figure. And follows the up and down of the terrain in reflection of snow, if we ever get snow again. So that snow zone strategy, a dry lightning ridgeline fire strategy, a roadway and railroad way ignitions strategy. On those two, just quickly, the roadway work and the ridgeline work were 2 of the major themes of the Quincy Library Group, as everybody knows. They do the primary thing in those 2 areas. This would zero in a little bit more, update it with what work has been done up to this point, and determine what are the priorities from this point on. Wildland urban interface fire strategy, a fire liability property line fire buffer strategy. Now, if you've been following the Moonlight Fire, that has some interest to some people, most of them lawyers. A critical habitats fire buffer strategy, and then a landscape scale ecological restoration strategy. Okay, so we're in the process right now of having the consultant develop a first cut at maps that illustrate each of these strategies, so we know what we're talking about. Let me see what else do we need. Mike, can you think of anything that I haven't covered?
Okay.
That's about it.
Did you guys have to wrestle over who got to be the mouthpiece of the group?
Well,
In between me and I,
Uh-huh.
well, I didn't expect to be here.
Ah,
I was
okay.
in LA yesterday and got back earlier than I had.
I thought maybe he beat you over the head and took it away from
no,
you.
I was working at my day job, so I had to cut an hour out of that too.
Hey, we appreciate it.
That's all we've done up to this point. If anybody has anything, the only other thing that we talked about is the application process and the application form. And I think that at least Mike and I, having been through the RAC process over the last umpteen years, think that the simpler the better, and maybe a two-stage process might be the way to do it. But I guess the idea is that we have to be really sensitive to the people who will be presenting these proposals, to not send them down a rabbit hole without some knowledge that they're going to get funded. And a two-way process or a two-step process might do that better than a one-step process where we're asking all the details from day one.
So you're basically saying kind of a preliminary application that sketches it out, and then the subgroup would kind of say, now that's not exactly in
Right.
line with our priority,
Right.
and then they wouldn't waste time.
Yeah,
That's
show
good.
everybody the priorities and then as somebody to see how it fits into those.
Sierra Nevada Conservancy uses that approach. It really works well.
John, the stuff like the snow line and the ridge line type things, the things that are kind of partially QLG type things, a lot of that work's already been done.
Right.
So I would think that would be something that could be pretty easily brought into this process.
Yeah, I think it could be very easily brought in, but sometimes thinking it's the best way to do it is this way doesn't work out so well. And I'll give you an example. The map that showed the projects that have been done in Lewis County through the Fire State Council and the Forest Service and private parties was kept by the Forest Service. Now, do we want to continue to do it that way? Do we think that's the best way to get it done? That's one question. The second one is, how do we update that work that's been done in Plumas to reflect the other counties in the area? And I've seen work that's been done for Sierra County. I've seen work that's been done for Lassen County and Butte, but they're all over the place. So we got to figure out, okay, what's the standard going to be in terms of where we start off on these things for the would-be applicants, so they're not made more insane than is necessary.
Good, thank you.
Holly, do you have an update on that?
Sure. Do you need me to be on camera?
I don't have to be.
I know some of you, my name is Holly Foster, and I am currently the work group coordinator for the Ag group. And I have been tag teaming in that effort with Holly George, our UC Cooperative Extension advisor in this area. So without her, I wouldn't be doing nearly as much as I have been doing. So we want to extend our appreciation to Holly for all her help. We've had 2 meetings to date. We've had about 10 to 12 people at both of those meetings. And the folks who are attending bring a lot of institutional knowledge. All of them are very involved in multiple groups and multiple water issues as it relates to ag. And we're all also involved because our livelihoods depend on it. And so that brings a lot of credibility to our group. At the first meeting, similar to Trina and what she's having doing the travel outreach, just making sure we can get everybody's arms wrapped around this process and why we're going through it. Because some of it is a little abstract, some of the exercises we have to go through. So helping folks understand that some of those loopholes or hoops are things that we need to do in order to get to the ultimate goal of having a comprehensive plan. In the first meeting, we went through the resource management strategies. Randy and I were taskmasters and made our group be pretty efficient in what we selected. So we had a pretty narrow focus in that and really focused on things that were pertinent to our ag group, with the idea there might be other issues that we would want to comment on as an ag group, but realizing there's things that we'll flesh out with our group as a priority. In our second group meeting, we went over the goals and objectives as described in our tasks, and we actually added a fifth objective to protect and enhance the health and economic viability of working landscapes. We felt that component was missing, both from our timberland perspective as well as our ag lands, both cattle, hay production, et cetera, in this region. And so we thought that was important to bring to the table. Essentially, that's an economic driver for this area, so it was important to make sure that was part of that. We also reviewed those draft objectives and goals, and I think Uma is going to update the group in more detail on that, so I won't belabor that issue. We asked the group to look at the project solicitation outline, and we have a couple of the folks involved that are already involved in some grant application processes, part of the Upper Feather River Watershed Group, and so a few positive comments in relation to the format that Uma's put together. So I passed that along to Uma. And our group had a very good brainstorming session at this point. A lot of those ideas, because it was a lot to get your arms wrapped around, broad, but they range from infrastructure ideas, looking at irrigation diversions, those sorts of things, weirs for diversions, offering that type of infrastructure assistance to ag producers, on down to educational projects. For example, UC Extension in the mid-90s would have done a range water quality educational project to help branches put together plans for their individual operations. So we talked about maybe we need to revisit that and bring that forward again in that process. So our brainstorming session kind of covered the gamut, and then we'll continue to work with Uma to get that narrowed down and provide more concise ideas as we move along through the process. So anything else we need to?
Any questions for Holly?
Okay.
You must have done great.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm Terry Rust, for somebody, and you might not know me. I'm the coordinator for the Meadows, Floodplains, and Water Bodies Work Group. The chairperson, Carl, wasn't at the last work group meeting, so that's why I'm presenting today. But we had 23 participants on our February 13th meeting. We started off and did a little brainstorming and identified 22 issues and 19 potential projects. I've had people say that ideas are continuing to come into them, so I'm sure the list will grow. One of the things, and we've kind of known this from the get-go with our group, is there is real diverse interest in this group. We've got everything from fisheries and trout unlimited to pollution and recreation on Lake Almanor to meadow restoration, sedimentation, all kinds of things. So just getting everybody to brainstorm was a huge part, and so what we're seeing is we do have a big scatter of projects right now that do cover the whole gamut of things, and it will be interesting to see how over time we are able to try to work those into what kind of projects we move forward. But anyway, I think it was really good for people to, be able to start to do that brainstorming and really begin to identify our issues. It helped also solidify the resource management strategies that we picked. So the group did go ahead and confirm and identify that we'd like to take on, or at least as the primary resource management strategies. Number 3, which is flood management, 17, pollution prevention, 21, ecosystem restoration, 26, watershed management, 30, water-dependent recreation, and one where we have kind of a funny overlap, 22, is actually forest management. But if you read what the California Water Plan chapter has in it, there's a really strange overlap with meadows and floodplains in that one. So I think we're going to just resolve that. There's also a question that's come up with some of the periphery. Sedimentation is actually another big one that would seem obvious for this group, and that begins to make our numbers kind of high, and there are other groups that want to do that one. So again, that's another one where we might just maybe today be able to figure out that overlap. We did look over the project solicitation and forms, and the initial reaction of some folks in the group with that large form was that, like, wow, this is like a lot of information, and it will scare off or cull out some projects before they even get a little momentum. And I know Sunset UMa's put out the 2-pager, and I think that's something that our group, like I'm hearing John Sheehan say, is that having that 2-step process will really allow a lot more projects to become involved, and also probably let us select those projects better without having to go through that whole tedious process of get-go. There are other people in there who say, though, that other form, that long form, is a really good idea because that's exactly what our grantors are gonna, ask for. So, knowing how and having your project to that point is definitely really important. It's good that people know that's what you've got to get to get a project funded through the grant solicitation. Let's see, what else did we cover? Over those. I think that was pretty much it. I think right now we know we just want to keep on working with the projects and also our recommendations for the resource management strategies, and some of that will be driven by the guidance we get today too. So, and then our next meeting is April 24th at 9 a.m. Randy?
So one of the things that Terry and them did is they got together before the second round of work group meetings, and they came up with an idea to just broadly identify issues and broadly identify projects. And for somebody, I've been to all the meetings, and I have to tell you, all 4 working groups really dug into that broad overview of identifying issues and projects. A lot of good discussion from all the work groups, and that's why you're seeing these kind of numbers pop up that Frank talked about, and everybody's talking about here is that brainstorming, kind of a different twist on where we were going, but it really has brought out a lot of good ideas, identified a lot of good issues.
Okay. Ready to talk about here?
Yeah. So in the last management group meeting, staff received direction to develop a pamphlet, a handout to help promote stakeholder involvement. So it's in your packet. It didn't show up on the screen very well, but so anyway, just requesting any feedback, any concerns about it, or any changes you would like to see. We have received some offers from various organizations to help with the printing costs, and then we would probably have a stack of them for each work group coordinator and the chairs to hand out when people ask about the process. Or if there's other suggestions that you have for getting the word out there and the pamphlets available to folks, you can let us know. That would be great.
Well, I like it. I think it's attractive. It kind of follows the format of other IRWM type of map. And with the map, that identifies the area, I think because that's always one question people say is, what are the boundaries of the Federal River watershed? And I think I like our mission statement. It looks good when it's all printed out. So, no, I think it's good.
It's actually quite interesting how few people really recognize how massive this watershed is.
So my one comment would be, although the tribal advisory is in a work group, that maybe it be listed so people recognize, other tribal people see it and they're not listed and kind of get that.
Sure. I think that's a very good idea. And probably what we should do is put them on the list that we were just going over. As a
Okay.
work person, I would think, because they really are.
Yeah, we chose to be an ad hoc committee because some of the things they've talked about are pretty sensitive as far as culturally, so to not have to be recorded for those things, but we plan to fully engage.
And can we put your email address, your Upper Feather River email? Okay.
Sure, update the work groups and who is going to be the lead person in there, because they're different. I don't know if they've changed. I can't say if they're correct or not, but I mean, I don't know. Are they the chairs?
No, these are the coordinators.
These are the coordinators that are.
Yeah, they're the coordinators
Not the chair.
that are part of the consulting team.
Oh, okay. So on the spreadsheet here, it
on this page here, you don't have those.
No, they're not listed there.
Okay, got it.
Any other comments on it from anybody? Anybody want to make a motion to accept it with the previous change?
additions.
All in favor? Opposed? Hey, you got a brochure.
Any feedback on where we should, should they be posted somewhere, or is it just something that we, as the coordinators and,
Well, of course, I think it should be posted on the website,
yes, okay.
naturally. I'm just coming to the electronic modern age. And then I agree, I think the coordinators in particular, because that would probably be who was contacted with that first contact. And then the chair and vice chair. And I leave that to the subgroup people. You know, if there are people on a subgroup that know a lot of people and think they might be interested, we certainly want to give them some brochures to hand out. So.
We'll put some in the lobby here.
Mm-hmm. Need to post one on the courthouse bulletin board. I'm sure people can really wait to see it. With all the wanted posters. Okay, item 2, resource management strategy.
So the management group direction was to the work groups to select 3 to 6 resource management strategies in which to focus. And that has been done, and we talked about it today. 6 of the strategies were selected by more than one work group, and 15 strategies were not selected by any one work group as a priority. We are required to address all of the resource management strategies in the plan update. We can, if the strategy is not applicable to the region, we can explain that and not go further in addressing it in the plan. But we at least need to go through each one and make that determination. So what the request is today is for the management group to review the work group selections and approve those, or make changes, and then review the remaining strategies for applicability to the region, and then assign those that haven't already been assigned to the work groups. I'm not sure, I did slides for these, but it might be easier to go through the table that's in your packet.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah, let's do that. So why don't you start at the top? We've got item 1, agricultural water use efficiency. The ag lands group has got that one checked off. 2, urban water use efficiency would be municipal services. Flood management, floodplain. So far, it's looking good till you get down to the next one. Down to conveyance. I think we could probably say that, yeah, that probably isn't really something that we have any influence or say over or control. And then conveyance, regional, local. Looks like all of them have indicated some interest, but none of them wanted to just jump right on that. So who shall we? It could. And that would be my question to you. Do you want us to kind of assign this to one of the groups today, or you want to wait till another meeting and see if some of it kind of evolves out of some of their discussions? Because I could see where, you know, with this one, conveyance, regional and local, ultimately one of the groups, it may play a bigger role in that group.
That is up to the management.
Because they don't
groups
realize
to
it's
do it
wrong.
either way.
Right.
It might help the management, or the work groups identify projects is the thought. As they go through that project development process, you know, they're supposed to address the resource, identify those resource management strategies that their project addresses. And it may all tie together, but if you feel that it can wait, you know, we could do that too.
Well, I wouldn't want to see it wait beyond maybe the next meeting, because I think they'll be fleshing things out a lot for the meeting. What do you think?
What do you as coordinators think?
Well, I think part of the challenge is we were asked to identify up to 6, so we had to prioritize within that constraint. So again, our ag group had several that we felt like we might comment on, but obviously our group would not spend a lot of time on. So if we, you know, conveyance, we can start looking at our irrigation infrastructure as means of water conveyance, so that could be a big one for ag potentially, but we had to pick what was ultimately most critical to our group. So
Well, it looks like a fairly decent balance when you look through the chart at this stage of the game.
I think so too. I was kind of actually pleased to see them.
I mean, I kind of expected everybody to have an interest in everything and be, all right, guys, what are we gonna throw?
Well, they pretty much did when they went through.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That was
thinking.
the first round. Yeah, the first round, that was like
Sure.
everything was there.
Well, I'm kind
So
of
it's
thinking
still
maybe we let it go for one more round with the work groups and kind of with them, because now they're doing this concern, with the idea that as they're looking at what they're doing that they want to do, some of these other things play a role in that. So it's not, a lot of them don't seem to me to even stand alone individually, they're kind of interwoven.
Yeah, it's really that communication,
Right.
coordinated effort.
Also, the other thing I think too is that, as Holly was saying, where a group has their specific things that absolutely fall under that group, there will be things, because everything is so intertwined, that they'll want to have input on and comment on. And I've been trying to think through how that process is going to work. And I think when it comes to this group, at that point would be where we're saying to the other groups, do you have input on this issue? Because it isn't something that, say, it has nothing to do with what your group's looking at, except that it does overlap in some way where you'd want to say, well, we would like to see something. So, I don't know, Carrie?
Well, the other thing is too, we're gonna have that integrated meeting coming up pretty soon,
Mhm.
like on our fourth meeting, all of us will be together, and so at that point, if the groups really do prioritize like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you know exactly the ones you want ownership of, and then but also can provide comments on some of those others, then we can just bring all those comments together maybe at that meeting. Because I think that's one of the things that sometimes still gets, at least with some of my work group members, is that we're competing the work groups, and it's not that at all, it's collaborative, so any comments we make, should hopefully at some point get meshed in, whether you're the lead work group or not
Right.
on our RMS. So in theory, we probably should, be able to provide comments on any of those, but focusing on those main ones. But I think that integrated lunch meeting might be where we'll be able to really.
I think that's a very good idea.
Flesh out all of that.
The ones that we can eliminate today.
Okay, let's do
Jerry?
that, because some of them we can't. Carl?
There's only 2 of the whole 30 that wasn't selected for consideration. I mean, yeah, we didn't, there's 15 that were top priority, but there's only 2 that wasn't considered.
Right.
Like in our work group, we covered a lot of them. And the services, I got check marks on almost every column from those folks. But they're not high priority at this point, but they could be at some point in time.
And they probably
Probably
overlap.
will be. I can see our work group picking up a couple more than what we've identified already by talking with people outside of the meeting.
Okay, so I think what we'll do, in the interest of time and in the interest of letting the work group function, is we will go through today and eliminate the ones that we can legally eliminate, that like conveyance in the Delta. And at least those will then be off the table unless somebody makes a compelling reason to put them back on.
Bring it back on.
And then what's left on the list, we'll let the work groups kind of.
Are we removing desalinization? That would be my hope.
I think so. I was headed that direction, if that's okay with you.
Unless the oceans rise.
Okay, so we got conveyance, regional, local, water transfers, conjunctive management, desalinization. I think we can cross that one. I hope.
Number 4 doesn't even apply.
Yeah, we already crossed that
Right.
one off. One of the ones that nobody checked is surface storage, CalFed State.
You got 12?
I don't know that I'd
Yeah.
remove that at this
12.
point.
So, I had a question on 13, I'll wait.
Okay. So 13, regional local surface storage.
I just want to ask a question, just as an example, and Carl touched on it a little bit, but 13 was selected by the floodplains group as a, indicates work group interest and not priority selection.
Right.
So I saw the emails that you and Jeff sent back and forth. He has a project that he thought fit that category. He wanted to add it. But if it's not formally added as a priority, he could still recommend a project that he thought fit in that category.
That's what I told him too, was we're not gonna deny anything. If he wants to put the work in to supply us with the information for any of the tasks, I'd be more than happy to consider it and present it to the steering committee. You know, I mean,
So the fact that it's
why
not
would we
a,
not do that for any of the groups? If
Really,
someone's
that
willing to put the time in and supply us with the information necessary.
so it doesn't have to be a priority selection to be a
We
separate
really wanna
project.
focus on the 6, preferably the 3 that I
I saw that.
recommended, and then if anyone else wants to put some more forward, like this particular case that you're talking about, I can't see how we would wanna, you know, dampen that down at all. So, particularly in my work group, I'm not gonna do it.
That's what, I think that was his understanding.
I think the important part would be whether or not it was identified as a strategy for the region, that was important to the region. Like if we say it's not applicable to the region, then that would affect its ability to, you know, its, for inclusion in the project list within the plan.
Right.
Like the Delta
It doesn't have to be a priority, but it, you know, should be included in the plan.
Yeah, so what we're talking about right now is eliminating things that will not even be included. in the
Yeah,
plan
that's
because they
just
aren't
blatantly
applicable.
outside.
Right,
Well, that was his understanding. I just wanted to clarify it so that now he knows that he can still work on that if he wants to.
okay, so we got drinking water treatment, distribution, groundwater remediation, aquifer remediation.
Salt salinity
Sure.
management.
Sure, was 12 eliminated or no?
No,
Okay.
CalFit,
Why don't you give us a definition, Randy?
well, if you go to the matrix that Uma's provided, gives you the actual strategies. Joint state Fed effort created to coordinate activities in the San Joaquin, Sacramento Delta,
So,
basically. Nobody,
My
Yeah,
only-
it's fine.
eliminated.
My only thought was if, this, because Oroville, like Oroville is in the region, does that apply at all?
And then if you go to Oroville, does it apply, and the rest go up the chain down? I say,
No.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to eliminate it, everybody? Okay, 12's gone. I think I got down to 15, groundwater remediation, aquifer remediation, matching water quality to water use,
that's good.
pollution prevention, salt and salinity management. What do you think?
Somebody's got to check. That's an interest. Do we even
Yeah,
know
well, that's the
something about a meeting
municipal-
here?
not that I know.
Right.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah, the municipal group, if we use recycled water,
There
Oh,
you
that's
go.
right.
wastewater, you're gonna have to deal with
There you
salt.
go.
Yep, that'll be there.
That's right.
Urban stormwater
Is it pretty
runoff.
high?
Can be, yeah, matter of fact, the golf courses have to run salinity tests in their soil
Yeah,
every year to make sure they're
First
not
thing I was thinking,
killing it.
throw that on the lawn, you'll kill your lawn.
Can't
And with our chlorinization, et cetera.
chlorine or any disinfectant have salt.